I always do that.
I always do that.
I'm a night rider. Every time that I go up past midnight, I swear I get higher.
I swear.
Swear I gotta get higher now.
Okay.
I'm a night rider.
Okay.
Every time that I give what I got, I supply that fire.
Mm-hmm.
I supply that fire, man. I'm a night rider. Every time that I go up past midnight,
You
I swear
okay,
I get
babe?
higher.
All systems are go here, and welcome back, you beautiful bookworms, to another episode of Bookmarks with Bump. Listen to my sultry tone of my voice come over the airwaves as I give you all things good. All things good, you know? That's what we talk about on this wacky, wild podcast here. It is called Bookmarks with Bump for a reason. Everything we talk about is something that I've had bookmarked on my Twitter for months, who knows, maybe even years. When did bookmarks start? I don't know if that was an X thing or a Twitter thing. Nonetheless, typically while I'm at work and I'm scrolling through my social media while I'm on my throne, I do happen to come across some things that are threaded, and I go, oh, that'd be a fun thing to read, and I never do read them, so that is where the idea of this podcast came to fruition, and here we are, 20 episodes in. That's a lot of bookmarks. But as the podcast has gone on, you've been more welcomed into my everyday happenings. And today is a day. It's Thursday. Every day is a day, dude. What are you talking about? Today is Thursday, October 24th. And it's only been 5 or 6 days since the last time I sat down and did this, but it's felt like weeks. And I'm not sure if that's due to, I give a autumnal update every time I come on, and it seems like just 3 weeks ago I was talking about how the leaves were starting to turn color, and now there are bare trees, and it hasn't even been, that brisk October weather that we're used to here. We just got through quite a heat wave. It was actually 75, 80 degrees at some points this past week, and we've been blessed with beautiful weather, so thank you, God. However, moving on, this podcast is derived from social media, and one of the things that I've worked on for the last week or 2 weeks is just staying off of it. And I know that's kind of strange to hear from a social media promoted podcast. However, I just don't have the time for it, and nor do I want to be sitting there scrolling. You have 15 minutes, 30 minutes at different times while you're at work, and you have breaks. But I've been reading 2 books as of late. The Open, the tale of how the USGA Open originally got to Bethpage Black in Long Island, New York, and it's quite the story. And I've also picked up Rich Dad, Poor Dad to get some more financial literacy going on here as I've become a man with credit cards trying to build a credit score, because we live in America where your fake digital money is more valuable than your real cash. Something I'll never understand, but nonetheless, I will conform. I will conform for you, U.S. government, so I could have housing and whatever else I decide to get a loan for. So yeah, if you haven't seen me liking your stuff, don't take it personal. I like you more in person. When you see me, you'll know that. I'm just more moved by human interaction these days than digital interaction. I actually just cut off my Xbox Live subscription for an All Trails subscription. So you could catch me all winter long in my snowshoes hiking various mountains that I haven't yet summited here in Connecticut. And that's actually a plan that I have for this weekend. It's something I did last weekend. So after the wedding, Landry and Kelly and their beautiful Holy Union at our church was just a very exciting and joyous thing to go to. I couldn't keep a smile off my face the whole time. I was so happy for my friend and him finding his true love and them becoming one, building a family together. That's something I'm so excited for. And they traveled off on their honeymoon the next day. That's not a shot at them. They deserve that. I don't take it personally. So I decided to take myself on my own honeymoon the next morning, and I went for a nice little hike through the woods. before church, and I actually plan on doing that every week. It was just a great way to start the day, to continue to stay into this routine where I'm waking up these days at 4 a.m. I'm working 10-hour days throughout the week. I am really busting my chops here in this last quarter of the year, trying to get as much income as possible and really use these as investments to make the outside world, the actual life, better. I'm planning on upgrading equipment as far as computer goes. I'm looking at new computers to get, so the podcast will continue to develop and be better. I'm looking to develop a video element to this podcast finally. I'm also just looking at upgrading a living space and things of that nature, all of these great big developments that everybody should be working on. And you can work on little by little. You just got to keep chipping away at that block. And I know sometimes when you're looking at the big picture, it seems daunting. But when you remove yourself from the distractions and you just keep working towards it, it becomes more and more feasible as you chip away little by little. Everything in my life, I've taken that one play at a time approach as of late. Not as of late, but for the last 6 years, really. Um, how do I get to the next race? How do I do this? How do I do that? It doesn't matter how I do the whole thing. It matters how I do each day. And as long as I can make each day a little bit more productive, a little bit more towards my goal, I will be one happy clam. For instance, today I'm out there and I'm supposed to take it easy on this run, and I am seemingly taking it easy. I'm getting in through the first mile and a half. I look down at my watch and I'm pacing almost 45 seconds faster than I'm supposed to, but my heart rate hasn't changed. Everything felt the same. I am really primed and ready to go and excited for this race coming up. And boy, are my hamstrings tired. Um, Moving on from that, so as the week has gone on, and maybe that's why it feels like so much has happened in the last week because of just the work schedule and all of that. But I did not release an article this week for my Substack, and that was something that I thought about. I took a good long look in the mirror Monday before the double header started on Monday between the Ravens and the Buccaneers, and then uh, wow, the other game was such a complete stinker, I can barely even think of it. Oh my gosh. The Chargers and the Cardinals. And it's not a stinker. I mean, it was just a kicking game. It was a cagey affair, a great defensive show, and just, some mistakes on offense. Marvin Harrison Jr. got his head taken off again. That guy's really got a warm welcome to the NFL, and Marvin Harrison is all for it. He is not letting this boy back down at all, and that's what a good football dad does, right? Nonetheless, I was looking at myself and I said, I have no leisure time, okay? And this is something that everybody needs. This is the balance in life that everybody needs. We live in a culture and a society that's so focused on build, 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 go, 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 grind, 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 never sleep, kill yourself working hard, unalive yourself. Man, that wasn't, I hope that doesn't get me a strike or something, but you know what I meant by that. Anywho, I've decided that, I train very hard for these races, and that involves running and lifting weights. Okay, so those two things that I thoroughly enjoy to do every day, they're not necessarily hobbies, if you will. These are more, these are more it's more work, So I'm not just working 10 hours a day. Then I go out, I run for 40 minutes to an hour. There's another hour. There's 11 hours a day. Then I'm in the gym lifting weights for at least an hour. There's 12 hours a day to work, okay? And I have a down period when I get home from my work and run and I eat a meal and digest it before I head off to the gym. And I have an hour and a half, 2 hours, an hour every day where I can sit down and actually kick my feet up for once. And what was I doing? I was introducing a new job, really, that takes a lot of work. And yes, it's something that I love very much, but I needed to give myself something here in this moment. And that something isn't just Sundays where I go to church and watch football. That something isn't Saturdays where I only work half a day and then I go for my long run, which has been 8 miles plus every single week. I need something where I can chill. Okay, and everybody does. You do, I do, he does, she does, anybody that you're looking at right now does, and it's something that we should focus on, even if it's just an hour a day, because if you're taking 1 hour out of your day, you still have 23 to do the right things, right? So, even in this 1 hour, I've decided to pick up something that I gave up on a long, long time ago when I was a young boy, and I gave up on a lot of things, and I've adopted this mindset of it as of late where I don't quit on things. So, if I really wanted to do it then, and I'm thinking about doing it now, I probably could if I put some time to it, and here I am. Um, what it will be is maybe one day to be revealed, but it's just for me. It's my leisure time, and you should accept that. And we all love leisure time. How I know I'm getting a little bit older here and progressing in life is that tonight I'm looking very much forward to my leisure time as the Vikings and Rams kick off in LA. I will be folding laundry, which I've noticed that I tend to do on both football days. I have a load of laundry that is finished on Thursday and a load of laundry that is finished on Sunday. And it's interesting that I'm divulging this information to you all, but nonetheless, this is what I do. I fold laundry and I watch football. That is the man I've become. um, but speaking of football and the articles and everything, I'm not stopping with moving forward with my passion for sports, right? So I'd like to introduce you to the Balling with Bump segment of the Bookmarks with Bump podcast. This is Ballin with Bump.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah, here we go.
Okay, so the Saints started off the week at home in the Bayou. We start on a Thursday night on Amazon Prime, and the Broncos come into town. Sean Payton, for the first time in his career, will be facing the New Orleans Saints after coaching them for more than a decade, bringing them a Lombardi trophy at one point, also bringing them shame in the Bounty Gate scandal, which I find no issue at all. Okay, if my coach was coming to me and I was a linebacker in the NFL, and he said, "Listen, you take this guy out of the game, you take his head clean off, don't break his leg or nothing, but just try to concuss him. I'll give you 250 grand in a McDonald's bag." I'd be all for it. That would be my favorite coach I've ever played for. But I guess that's illegal, so what we did have was a battle between former teacher, former pupil, and also rookie versus rookie. Bo Nix has been starting for the Broncos all year, and he's been able to win them games, right? So at this point, they come into this game 3-2, and do they look like they have a crazy dynamic offense? No. And what I see right away is Bo Nix kind of has a timing issue with putting the ball on the receiver in the right spot and kind of overthrowing and underthrowing. He blew a lot of key conversions that would have got the Broncos into more of a touchdown territory type of game. They ended up having to kick a lot of field goals, and they really relied on their rushing game, which the Saints couldn't really do anything about. They have one of the worst rushing defenses in the league right now. And then on the other side, Spencer Rattler is starting for Derek Carr, who's out with an oblique injury. And they're also down their starting center. So the quarterback of the line is also out. They're playing with two backup quarterbacks on their offense. And it really showed. They weren't able to get much done throughout the entire game. Javonte Williams goes on for 2 touchdowns. The Broncos rush for over 255 yards, and Sean Payton gets a win over his former team, right? And so Sunday I talk about my nice hike, and it was beautiful, and about that was great, and it was a gift. The world is God's gift to humans, and football is man's gift to man. And that's what I got. And that's what we all got. What is a better day than 14 hours of NFL football, right? So, bingo. That's what we had. We had 14 hours of NFL football. New England goes over to Old England to play the Jacksonville Jaguars in Wembley Stadium. Jacksonville just coming off of a loss to the Bears. And the Patriots starting Drake May for his second game. Early in this game, it was evident to many Patriots fans, like, now I get it. Because a lot of us were questioning, why are we starting this guy if offensive line play is our biggest hurdle that we have? Well, after seeing how he was so apt to take off with the ball and how they were able to use the play action on the first drive, getting their first down on their first drive all season, and also scoring their first touchdown with a 16-yard pass to Jermichael Hasty. Now, this wasn't like a floater into the end zone. This was more of a dump off, which he made the right decision there. He didn't try to force the ball down the field. He checked down to his running back, Jermichael Hasty, former Jacksonville Jaguar, weaving through his old buddies to get into the end zone. And that was a beautiful start to the game. Not only because of that, but because we have we have the Jaguars, who their offense hasn't really been clicking this season for whatever reason, with all the talent they have down there. After acquiring Gabe Davis from the Bills, they also have Christian Kirk, one of the highest paid receivers in the league, and they drafted this phenom Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU. So they have all of these weapons to be able to use their star quarterback, who they just gave a huge contract to, Trevor Lawrence, and he hasn't been clicking the way he was in the previous seasons. 2 years ago, he played phenomenally, almost MVP numbers. Last year, he played really well, and then he got hurt and kind of came back a little too fast, in my opinion. Didn't really get his feet underneath him. But the defense of New England was able to kind of ride that energy and stop the Jags on their first drive, force them to punt. The Patriots almost looked like they were going to fail, but then Drake May's rushing ability came out again, and as the pocket collapsed on him, he kind of bursted through for 13 yards, and that was a sign to me like, okay, maybe we will be good with this guy because our offensive line is not great, and that's all I could say about that. I mean, we just can't. The biggest fear is having this rookie quarterback back there and ruining his confidence and his ability by having him get creamed every single game. Anyway, New England doesn't score on that drive except to kick a field goal, so they do score on that drive. The Jags would come back, and all of a sudden, they have this Jacksonville Jaguars moment. And this is kind of what led them to where they are now. A huge pass to Christian Kirk that gained a whole bunch of yards. They would go down and they would score a touchdown, eventually with Brian Thomas Jr. getting in the end zone. They would then go down and score another touchdown. This being by the hands of Brian Thomas Jr. finding a gap in the secondary and just catching a huge bomb. I mean, this ball was soaring through the air in England. And just like that, the Patriots' lead was gone. And it never came back. The Jaguars never let up. They they really put a hurting on the Patriots. They ended up just running all over us, to be honest with you. Tank Bigsby had 116 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. His second touchdown being towards the end of the game, which just didn't really need to happen, but it did. And the Patriots are now 1-6, and the Jaguars are 2-5, so not much better. They have a lot of climbing to do still, but the Patriots have a lot of building to do. They need a lot to make that team really look good. That game ends. That action is over, and right away the action starts in the 1:00 slate. The Browns and the Bengals, they play this game twice a year. They're in the AFC North. It's a division rivalry. It's heated. It's contentious. It starts with a kickoff return, just the third ever kickoff return with this renewed, revitalized kick return scheme. And that was kind of the story of the game, right? Charlie Jones goes 100 yards from end zone to end zone. And that was actually the Bengals' first touchdown return in 4 years. So it was nice for them to get a quick start, let the offense take a breather, even though they hadn't been on the field yet. And that was it, really. It was a very gritty, defensive, tough game, which is typical of these types of games. Good news from that game, Nick Chubb made his return after his ACL tear last year, and he ended up scoring a touchdown in that game, which was, it's always awesome to see somebody come back from something that was like once a debilitating injury and find glory again, because that's what the end zone is. The end zone is glory. Nonetheless, The bad news from that game, depending on who you're asking, a lot of people might say this is good news, and I never wish hurt upon anybody, but Deshaun Watson ruptured his Achilles in that game. And now moving forward, we'll see Jameis Winston as the starter for the Browns, which, if you ask me, that guy should be a starter forever. He's a great leader of men, and he wants to eat W's, and the first four letters of his name spell out wins. So if you're the Browns, that's what you need, is wins. The Browns would lose that game and fall to 1-5. The Bengals are now 3-4. Okay, so they're scratching their way back up. This is typical of a Bengals team. They always start really slow. This year, we thought it might be a little bit different because Joe Burrow was there all year. He hasn't really had a complete training camp in his whole career, and here he is. And they still did not find a way to win until recently. But now they're 3-4. They don't really have a chance to win the AFC North, I don't think. The Steelers haven't played a division game yet, but they're right up there with the Baltimore Ravens. So the Ravens are the team to beat in the AFC North, if you ask me, and there's not a lot of teams that are beating them. The Buccaneers most certainly weren't. Even with Baker Mayfield on Monday night, kind of moving around in the pocket looking like Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is just playing out of his mind right now. We are talking a guy who can sit back in the pocket and throw a deep pass, and also a guy who can tuck it and run faster and further than any other quarterback in the league. The Lions took on the unbeaten Vikings. The Vikings have had a season in their past where they went into the bye week at 5-0. And they did not make it to the playoffs this year. And that the Vikings that we're going to see. I'm excited to find out here in a little bit with the Amazon Prime kickoff starting soon. Nonetheless, the Detroit Lions went into their house and they made it their own. Now Dan Campbell is a very aggressive guy. So the Lions come out, they go 3-and-out on their first drive, and instead of punting the ball as you would that deep in your own territory, they decided to fake the punt, and they did not convert. Unfortunately for Lions fans and Lions alike, they did not convert on that play. And then you move forward, and the next play directly after that, Aaron Jones scores a huge touchdown, and it looks like the Vikings are going to continue to be unbeaten. Come on, Sean. Anyway, the Lions were ferocious, though, for lack of better words. The Vikings go up 10-0 in the first quarter, and then the Lions just come out and score 21 unanswered in the second quarter, swinging the lead from being a 10-point lead for the Vikings to an 11-point lead for the Lions. Jared Goff played out of his mind, okay? He went 12 for 12 in the first half, not throwing one single incompletion. And then Brian Branch would intercept a pass from Sam Darnold and help see the Lions to a 8-yard touchdown from Jahmyr Gibbs, who was picking up a heavy load this week. David Montgomery was in and out of the game due to injury and also fumble concerns. He had a huge fumble later in the game that we'll get to. So they go into halftime 21-10. Minnesota came out motivated, though, moving the ball through Aaron Jones and Justin Jefferson until Sam Darnold threw a nice 25-yard touchdown to Jay Jettis. This drive would indicate that the Vikings were willing to fight, and they did for the rest of the game. It was a really tough game throughout the rest. The Lions maintained the lead until late in the game when that fumble I was talking about happened. David Montgomery had the ball punched out. The Vikings defense returned that for a touchdown, and it just wasn't enough, though. Jared Goff had a huge game. He went 22 for 25, only 3 incompletions on the game, threw 280 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jahmyr Gibbs had 116 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns. And now they get down into field goal territory with about 15 seconds left on the game. And this is what I want to talk about here. This guy, Jake Bates, he comes on after the game and just gives all glory to God. And I love when an athlete does that. That's part of the reason why CJ Stroud is my favorite quarterback in the league. He's just willing to give it up to God. And in a time, in a society, in a day and age where not a lot of people are very boisterous about their religious views, or people are very swayed by the evil and the worldly things in the world, we have people like this who are role models for kids, telling you to remember that Jesus is king. And Jesus is king. Jake Bates was king of the field because he's a UFL hero, all right? This guy was playing in the UFL last season during the spring, which is the kind of, I won't say it's a developmental league, right? This is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's professional football league, so it's nothing to really scoff at. However, this guy was selling bricks in Houston 18 months ago. He goes out, he gets signed to the Michigan Panthers in the UFL, and he kicks 60-yard field goal after 60-yard field goal. He set the record for the field goal length in the UFL in their inaugural season. We'll see how long that lasts. But he goes on and he kicks a game-winning field goal for the Detroit Lions and becomes a hero in the NFL now. The Lions and the Vikings are both tied at 5-1 records. Does that make them tied for the NFC North Division? I don't think so, because now the Lions haven't win over the Vikings. Another game we could talk about real quick is the Colts game and the Dolphins game, because Tua Tagovailoa is coming back this week, and that is probably something that Tyreek Hill is very happy about. He only caught one ball, and so did Jalen Waddle. They're two Pro Bowl receivers getting 2 catches throughout the game is something that cannot happen. They have Tyler Huntley back there at quarterback right now, and they were not able to do a thing against the Colts. It was a very, very cagey affair, we'll say. The Colts would end up winning 16-10. Anthony Richardson came back and played in this game. He played very well for the Colts. I mean, he threw for 130 yards, which isn't really spectacular. He put another 56 on the ground, but neither team could really move. The Colts are now 4-3, and the Dolphins are at 2-4, and they're really, this is what they need Tua for, because they're 2-4. That slate, that Sunday slate, also in the 4 o'clock hour, had a very just dominating matchup from the Super Bowl last year. The Chiefs played the 49ers. The Chiefs are now the only undefeated team in the NFL, and they are not playing at the rate that they have been in previous years, at least offensively. I mean, last year their offense wasn't that great, but their defense is stuffing everybody right now, and they're playing in these zone defenses that it's been hard for people to manage them. And Brock Purdy has had a tough time this year. The 49ers are now 3-4. Are they going to make it back to the Super Bowl? That's a big question to ask. And Patrick Mahomes is finding a way to get anything he can out of the offense. And now they just landed DeAndre Hopkins in a trade. So you have that explosive, huge, crafty veteran receiver on the edge, Travis Kelce in the middle. Isaiah Pacheco will be back soon, but Kareem Hunt came back into the fold and is playing like Kareem Hunt played in 2015, or 2016, 17, whatever it was. He started his career with the Chiefs. Now he's back there, and Andy Reid knows exactly how to use him. Juju Smith-Schuster got hurt, so it's good to have DeAndre Hopkins back in, because if you're a veteran receiver and you can run any route in the tree, you're going to get balls. Juju's first game back, he had 116 yards receiving, so imagine what DeAndre is going to do. I think he's ready to blow the roof off of a place, and good thing Arrowhead doesn't have a roof, because there would be a lot of damage to clean up. And Sunday night ended with the New York Jets going to Pittsburgh, playing the Steelers, and the talk of this was Russell Wilson is starting over Justin Fields, but how could the Steelers do this? Justin Fields got them to 4-2. That's a good quarterback. And it kind of looked like that was going to happen, because the Jets came out kind of early, and they came out swinging. Russell Wilson gets to start. The Jets start with the ball, and They had an incomplete pass right away to Devontae Adams, their new acquisition, and it kind of looked like, okay, this is going to be the stinker we all thought it was because both teams went 3 and out early. On the second drive, the Jets kind of chipped away at the field instead, and they would go on to throw little passes to get themselves down the field. Breece Hall had like 120 yards receiving in this game, which he really needed to do because he wasn't able to do anything on the ground except for a nice 18-yard run. I'm sorry, it was a 13-yard run. It was a 13-yard run for a touchdown, which would actually be his only touchdown of the night. Um, which isn't really a spoiler because if you know anything about football, you probably already knew all about this. And it looked like the Jets were kind of hitting their stride. They would go down and score again, and right before halftime, they had the ball. You're thinking, okay, the Jets are going to put another score on the board. They are in complete control of this game. And Aaron Rodgers is picked off, which is something that's notable because that doesn't really happen often. We're talking about a guy who has like a 4-to-1 ratio touchdown to interception throughout his career. It's not often it's not often he turns over the ball, but he did at a very, very bad time because it's set up for George Pickens to send the Steelers into the half only down 2 points. Pickens found Russell Wilson kept finding George Pickens in these moments that it was just like, okay, now I see why this guy is starting. At first, it was shaky. He wasn't getting the ball out right. He didn't have good timing. If he wasn't throwing it to Darnell Washington, who is this guy's massive. He's 6'8". He's a huge target. I could throw a ball to him. But he keeps finding George Pickens in the pocket, and he ends up getting a touchdown before halftime. Now, where teams would usually make halftime adjustments according to the looks that they're getting or how they're performing, there was no way that the Jets knew how Russell Wilson was going to come out of the half because they went up and put up 24 unanswered points. Najee Harris would go sick. He would run 2 scores in. Russell Wilson would run a touchdown in. He would throw for 2 touchdowns in the game, and the Steelers would end up winning 37-15. And I don't think that's how anybody expected that to go. So the Steelers are sitting atop the AFC North. The Ravens are kind of waiting to play the Steelers to prove who is the big dog in that division. But that was a huge surprise, and that's something to look at going forward. What do the Jets do? Hassan Reddick signed his contract finally. He got all his fines paid for, too, so he might be happy, and that might be a push that they need because it just seems like the Jets can't stop the run right now. It's unfortunate. They traded away all their interior linemen over the last offseason, so they're not as dominant stopping the run, but they have an easy test. And I hate to say that because I'm a fan, but they play the Patriots this week, and if they can bounce back on any week, it should be this week. And we'll see what the Rams can do. The Rams are coming hot off a win, and the Vikings are angry because they just lost, and they're trying to prove that they're not the Vikings from 2015. So I'm excited to see this game coming on tonight and talk about the game later. But that's enough balling. Let's get into the podcast here. I got some topics that I had figured out, and we actually have our first suggestion. This was a topic that was suggested to me by a buddy Vinny. This is something called the exercise paradox, and I looked on Twitter. He sent me a video that was on YouTube, and so I looked into it on Twitter, and I found this, and I thought this was very interesting to look at. It starts out in bold letters. Exercise is a horrible weight loss method. Conventional wisdom is to eat less and move more to shift the balance of calories in your favor. But aerobic exercise essentially has no impact on your total energy expenditure. How can this be? Well, you can't fool the body and force it to start burning more energy. The body will compensate for forced exercise by reducing metabolic activity in other areas. If the metabolism is impaired, then the root causes must be addressed so that the basal metabolic rate is corrected and raised. Just exercising to spend more energy results in chronic stress in your body, further slowing down your basal metabolic rate to compensate. You can't expect to kill yourself in the gym. There we go again with the KYS crap. And have the same amount of energy the rest of the day. So a high activity level does not lead to a high BMR. Um, what does lead to a high BMR, though, is lean muscle. Okay, so this is saying aerobic exercise. What are things that help boost your metabolic rate? Anaerobic exercise, lifting weights because you're going to be building lean muscle, sprinting because you're going to be burning everything. Sprinting is one of the best things for you. And I've really noticed this over the last couple of weeks doing this speed training, especially the longer threshold run styles of speed training where I'm almost into a zone 3 heart rate and I am cruising and cooking. I can feel my body cooking. I feel leaner and look leaner than I have in a long time, even at a higher weight. So I'm anywhere in between 195 to 200 pounds right now, fluctuating daily. And I, not to toot my own horn, look so incredibly lean that I can't believe the scale when I look at it. I am, one of those athletic bodies. Okay, so now you take away the eat less and move more to shift everything, right? And it's not just about eating less, it's about eating less right. Okay, how much protein are you getting? And this is what the exercise paradox is. And you run into this all the time. And I ran into this at a younger age when I would go to the gym and play basketball and lift weights, fooling around, whatever. I didn't take care of what I was eating and I didn't take care of my body's vitamins, nutrients, macros, micros, all of that was completely out of whack. So the exercise paradox is to exercise, right? But also do the right things for your body. Sleep is an important thing, something that we talk about all the time. But food, getting yourself in the right caloric deficit and not going too low. Don't starve yourself. Don't overfeed yourself. You got to find that spot that's right in the middle. And if you need help from a nutritionist, get it. It's worth the investment. The greatest investment you can make is an investment in yourself. Now, let's talk about the perfect month, right? Because this month has gone by so fast and there's been so much that's going on. And this is something that I kind of have been thinking about, that balance we talked about earlier, right? So you should schedule your months like this according to Seek Wiser. One lunch date with a friend, which is, listen, don't think of it as like a date, right? Let's take that out. Get together with a buddy. That's one of my favorite things over the last couple weeks is how much time I've been spending with my friends, going out, finding excuses to spend time with my friends. This is something that is very important. This is something everybody should do, is have a social life. Be social, talk to your people. Yes, we all work, we all have crazy schedules, but there's always pockets of time where you're not doing anything. So one lunch date with a friend every month is very doable and very helpful for your mental health. One full day out in nature. Yes. Now, I told you I was hiking before going to church, and yeah, that's that's um that's a great morning in nature. But one full day out in nature and just soaking in the sun is something that it's indescribable, right? You take a day, you go over to the beach, and after that day, yeah, you can be tired, but you know that you were filled, right? You feel a little bit different when you're in the sun all day. Now, with the winter months coming, that might be a little bit more difficult for you to do, but you should bundle up and find a way to get out there. Fall time is the perfect time for all of this. You have your hay rides and your haunted houses, and you have your apple cider tastings and all of these things. Find something that's going to keep you outside all day and do it and see what that does for you. 24 hours, no social media. Let's go for a week, no social media, right? But if you can't do that, if you can't manage that, find a pocket of time where you have a whole day where you don't have to go on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, any of these things, and see how much that frees up your mind. See how much you're able to think for yourself through that day. One day doing absolutely nothing. Rest is important. Recharging your battery. A very special friend of mine once told me that every once in a while they need to recharge their battery because everything they do is so social. They have to give so much of themselves to everybody. There needs to be a day where nothing needs to be done. And I couldn't agree with that more. One day trying something brand new. I love to try new things. It's part of the reason why I picked up this hobby I did. And I think it's important for everybody to try new things all of the time because you never know what you'll like. Yeah, I used to grow up and say, "Oh, I don't like mushrooms," but did I ever have mushrooms? I'm not talking about the psilocybin kind you find growing in piles of dung. I'm talking about shiitake and uh, other mushrooms like that. Nonetheless, how can you say you don't like something if you've never tried it? So let's go with that. One at-home movie night with your family. And this is awesome because you should be spending more than one night with the people that are around you the most. But your family is the most important thing in the world. Uh, no matter what happens, these people love you unconditionally, and they always will. You have to trust that. So make time for them and just bond with them. And a movie night is a great thing because you're just enjoying each other's company. You don't have to talk, there's nothing forced. You just sit down, shut up, watch a movie, eat popcorn, love each other in silence. One day of serving others. Volunteering is something that has brought so much fulfillment to my life. Just I think when I was working at the soup kitchen actually was probably some of the most fulfilled days that I've ever had because all day, yes, I was working, right? Um, I had a small shift there, a 4-hour shift, but I found myself there for 8 hours most days because I enjoyed so much that feeling of giving to people. And that is fulfillment. And I think that's why this made the list, honestly. One day of self care, a pamper day just for yourself. Uh, I don't really do that, but I should. I should go get a massage. I should go to a spa. And maybe I'll do that after these sets of races coming up. I'm running 2 races in back-to-back weeks, and you know what? I could probably really use it then. One day to wake up early and watch the sunrise. Now, this is actually awesome to see that because I planned on doing that this week. My hike this week will be revealed through the announcement of this podcast being posted. How about that? I am going to the summit of Connecticut, and I will be there to see the sunrise. And I don't know. I just want to see what I can get out of that. I want to see how glorious that feels. So I'm going to try it out. One day to watch the sunset. This is kind of a somber thing in the fall, if you ask me. I love sunsets. Wow, that just sounded a little bit sugary, but sunsets throughout the summertime are some of my favorite things. And just being out at places like the beach or on the lake or just finding a spot to enjoy the way the sun is setting and how the world is being lit by that light dimming over the horizon. There is something extremely special. And one day to take yourself on a date. Sometimes you don't need anybody to do anything. Sometimes you just need to do something. So go and do it. Fulfill yourself. Just like that. Let's do something a little bit different here, right? Because how often would you get a Snapple back in the day? Was your favorite thing about the Snapple the tea? Or was it what was hiding under the cap? Every Snapple had a fun fact, right? So I found a thread here from Mr. Shelby. It goes on to say, did you know that some facts are stranger than fiction? These 15 facts will blow your mind. 1. In ancient Egypt, both men and women wore lipstick, and Cleopatra supposedly had hers made from crushed beetles to get that rich red hue. Even crazier, during World War II, Winston Churchill made sure lipstick production kept going because he believed it boosted morale. Thanks, Winston. 2. Originally, paper money was just a receipt for gold deposits. It wasn't real money, but an IOU, redeemable for physical gold from the bank. 3. In the 1920s, Einstein co-invented a refrigerator with no moving parts or toxic gases. Though it wasn't widely used, it showed his dedication to practical, people-focused inventions. Number 4. The map of the observable universe is an expansive visualization, illustrating the vast regions of galaxies, clusters, and cosmic structures, extending far beyond our Milky Way galaxy. When depicted, our galaxy's position is often marked with a red dot near the center, signifying our location within its vast cosmic web. This looks like arteries. Once again, as always, I implore you to hit the links in the description and see these things for yourself. 5. In Japan's unique do-nothing competition, participants were challenged to remain idle for 90 minutes. During this period, they were not allowed to talk, sleep, or move, with the goal of maintaining a steady pulse. The competitor with the most stable heart rate by the end was declared the winner. Japan has always had the craziest game shows. Uh, they never cease to amaze me. Number 6, fractional CO2 laser treatment is a popular method for skin tightening, utilizing targeted beams of light to create micro injuries on the skin surface. So, weaponized lasers are real. Number 7, Maud Wagner, recognized as the first professional female tattoo artist in 1904, also performed as a tattooed lady in the circus. Her dual roles showcased her talent and challenged norms, establishing her as a pioneering figure in the tattoo industry. 8. In 1898, 14 years before the Titanic disaster, author Morgan Robertson wrote Futility, or The Wreck of the Titan, a novel detailing the tragic sinking of an enormous unsinkable ship that strikes an iceberg in the North Atlantic, resulting in significant loss of life. Dun dun dun. The conspiracy theories about the Titanic are crazy. We'll get into those one day. 9. A photograph has surfaced of a frog displaying an unusual genetic mutation where its eyes appear to be located inside of its mouth rather than in their usual position on its head. So where are its teeth? Oh, this is disgusting. 10. A close-up of a human molar reveals the tooth's complex structure. Whoa. This looks like ice cream. A close-up of a human molar reveals the tooth's complex structure with a rugged chewing surface designed to grind food. 11. The highest bread consumption. Turkey eats 199 kilograms of bread per capita per year. That's crazy. We don't even mark the top 10. 12 is a gift, so I'll move on to 13. The Tolambe tribe, an uncontacted indigenous group, experienced an encounter with an outsider for the very first time, resulting in a fascinating and intense cultural exchange. And there's a video included. I suggest that you check this out because number 14 is also a video. So please check out the threads in the description. The last one. 15. In White Cliffs, Australia, residents used mining equipment to carve out caves, providing refuge from the intense 120 degrees heat of the outback. This is wild. Look at this basement. You know, basements are always cooler. I know that because I've stayed in one, but basements always seem to be much cooler than the rest of the house. So look at this innovative ingenuity out of Australia to go, well, it's really hot out here. Why don't we dig under the ground? So we'll go from another ingenuitous guy in Australia to the next. Our last thread is about Pavel Durov, who's been in the news as of late due to his Telegram mishaps, right? So he is the founder of Telegram, and he was in the news because he was arrested in Paris last month. But at 40 years old, he seems to have cracked the code to biohacking. Here's his top 6 fitness principles, and this is how we'll end the show. He's a discipline addict. For 15 years, he stuck to a strict health routine. At that time, he founded Telegram, which is now worth $15 billion, and Vacante. It's a leading Russian social network, so he's the Elon Musk of Russia, so to say. There are a lot of other things going on currently with him, but I want to talk about his health principles. Number 1 is no alcohol, smoking, or coffee. Regular alcohol consumption will cut your life by 4 to 5 years. It speeds up aging and makes you look older, he says. His advice is to skip alcohol for other addictive substances completely to look a decade. Oh, sorry. Not for other, but I was going to say this is terrible advice, but he says skip alcohol and other addictive substances completely to look a decade younger. And this guy looks my age, honestly. Number 2 is to never overeat. It leads to weight gain, it speeds up aging, and triggers numerous health problems. He has 3 eating rules, okay? Eat within a 6-hour window, or just once a day. That's intermittent fasting. Never eat more than 3 times a day, and no snacking. which is interesting. There are many ways to go about this, and if you're kind of a minimalist when it comes to your exercise and training, yes, this is a good thing to practice, is the not grazing, not constantly spiking your insulin and boosting your metabolism up throughout the day, keeping it at a steady rate. But when you're working, um, when you're not able to fit your workout into a smaller schedule or you're training for something, it is very important to time the way you eat. Um, his methods can be extreme, but they work. He completely gave up caffeine, meat, and drugs and alcohol and fast food. He went on a month-long food fast to come up with new ideas. He goes on to say that this intense fast rebuilt his digestive system, sharpened his mind, and boosted his productivity. Number 3 says, don't skip on sleep. Many attempts to catch up on the weekends, but it backfires. He believes that sleep gives a good boost to immunity, creativity, and psychological well-being. Get 8 hours of sleep. For his regular exercise, he starts the day without exception with 200 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, and an ice bath. He has steady, moderate workouts, weights over cardio, and outdoor sports beat intense routines. Weight training plus outdoor activities equals strength and endurance. And this could be something like basketball. This could be something like walking a round of golf. Durov also promotes cold exposure, regularly swimming in an ice-cold water in Finland or Switzerland during winter to boost willpower and reduce procrastination. And this is something that I can attest to. We used to go up to Maine every year in October, late October, for the Freiburg Fair. And one thing that we would always do is jump in the cold lake. And that's something that you can't just sit there and huff and puff about. You have to commit and get in. And that's what we would do often. Number 5 is to reduce stress. He fled Moscow after a SWAT team stormed his doorstep, leaving his company behind. How did he cope with that? He embraced stoicism and mastered indifference, not caring about a thing. The art of not giving a F. He found the silver lining in every moment and moved closer to nature, and that transformed his mindset. Being closer to nature, being in hiking, being out by the water, these are all things that bring me much, much peace. I do agree with this. It's a hard thing to not care about things. It really is. Stress is something that's almost constant in a lot of people's lives because if you care about things, you're going to think about them intensely and deeply. And sometimes you want to change things. But having that indifference and having that serenity, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. That is something that will help set you up for a healthier life because your heart won't be going through as much as you set it to. Then number 6 is to avoid meat. Most farmed meat is harmful. Livestock is raised with unhealthy methods like growth hormones and poor quality fodder. This results in meat that's unsafe to eat. Eat seafood and fish and skip the farm-raised meal. And this is something that, it's very hard to do in today's culture, but it's something we all should do. Is stay away from the food that's in the store. And that's a main goal in my life. I want to have a bunch of land one day, raise my own animals, know what they're eating, and make sure they're taken care of. That way I know what I'm putting in my body, because we really don't. And that's the sad thing about today's health industry. But there are ways to turn it around. I just gave you 6 of them. You can avoid alcohol, sleep a lot, avoid overeating, exercise regularly, reduce stress, and avoid meat. If you can do those things, as well as go like, subscribe, rate this podcast, leave a comment, let me know what's going on in your life. If you have any suggestions, bring them on. Let me know if you like the Ballin with Bump segment. Yeah, here we go. Thank you for listening to another episode of Bookmarks with Bump. It's all love. God bless.
Show you what it's worth. Money to the ceiling. I started at the dirt. I've been riding, wave like I surf. I've been leaning in and out of work. I could show you what it's worth. Money to the ceiling. I started at the dirt. I'm a night rider. Every time that I go out past midnight, I swear I get higher. Swear I gotta get higher now. I'm a night rider. Every time that I give what I got, I supply that fire. I supply that fire, man. I'm a night rider. Every time that I go up past midnight, I swear I get higher. Swear I gotta get higher now. I'm a night rider. Every time that I go up past midnight, I swear I get higher. Swear I gotta get higher.